Oh, yes. Mhm. Now, this is interesting. We found the officers had no probable cause because nothing indicated he had done anything wrong. Did not pose a threat to the officers. There is no qualified immunity inapplicable. It does not apply. You are not immune from prosecution for governmental interference in my rights as a father to make arrangements for my sons to be going to school with the age group that they should be in. Yeah. Now, I kind of touched on this prosecution of war criminals where judges and police officers said we got to do what's safest for the community, and if we violate the rights of American citizens, it doesn't matter. Pooch. We have to consider everybody, not just the individual. Well, I have to consider the other students that my sons are going to school with. For all the other freshmen that don't get a driver's license, it is somewhat heartbreaking to know the individual that got their license first and you realize you won't get a license for 2 more years. Now, it kind of retards the other students in the school because they realize that they're younger. Yes, they're not as privileged. They're just not as special as my special sons. And when I get suing the Brennan and Closing school districts, for every student that does know that the government would not stop interfering. Now, I'm going to want to know the actual employees of the Closing school district. Principal, Ooch. Principal, I'm going to want to know every student and every parent in the PTA, the Parental Teachers Association, Heidi Lee Budnick, Pooch, and every one of them that has the legal obligation to make sure that there is no student that is intentionally kept 2 grades behind all the other students so their mother didn't have to do a fucking thing for the last 7 years and 6 months and could say that her sons were doing so good in school when they never appeared in court, did they? Pooch. There wasn't a fucking judge that wanted to hear what they had to say. Now, I think there could be some other parents upset in the Brennan and Quilcene school districts. Yes. Now, these accepting of the civilian constitutional law standards. Yes. Kind of looked at this yesterday, the Court of Military Appeals. Yeah. There seems to be an acceptable civilian constitutional law standard. Right. And the court held that the wives could not constitutionally be tried by military authorities. Yes. Mhm. And then the civilians accused of committing offenses while accompanying the armed forces overseas during peacetime. Those civilians could not be tried by military court martial. Yes. Now, abroad, if the host nations are displeased by the unpunished misconduct of our personnel and dependents, I put my name here. Yeah. Could you get me every piece of property of the United States federal government in every nation of the world? Where I could call maybe the Emir of Qatar? Yes, yes, yes. And say, how do you feel about the United States government refusing, to acknowledge the constitutional standards, of American students to not be in classes that they are too old to be in, Now, for every host nation that could be displeased about the unpunished misconduct of police departments, sheriff's departments, judges in every county of the United States, justices on every state Supreme Court, yes, superintendents of every school district of the United States of America, I'm thinking that I'm going to converse, right, with some other nations, about the unpunished misconduct, of those that are oaths that got elected to office, the mandatory reporters, and every law firm that employs a paralegal that has been certified in the meaning of the Fifth and 14th Amendment. Now, you might be just a one person attorney office. Yeah. You belong to a bar association. Yes. As long as you employ a paralegal, that is a condition of their certification. I might get that email out. Yes. Just get me every paralegal. Pooch. Your actual employee does know that you cannot deprive Americans of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. You can't deprive my sons of being in the right grade with the right age group because that would be deprivation of life. Yes. You can't deprive them of the property of a driver's license even though they're freshmen. Pooch. There's life, liberty, and property to, well, retard their use of a vehicle once they're 16 years old. Yes, 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 yes. So as to not cause concern among their schoolmates. Yes. Their peers will be so upset that they don't get to drive when they're freshmen too right now. You've deprived my sons of life, liberty, and property. Yes. And for every nation abroad that has any United States territory, ooch, inclusive of every embassy, oh, every military base, ooch, every navy port, pooch, and all the international treaties and agreements, that it makes it a crime to deprive children of life, liberty, and property because of your want to cover up the fraud of the abduction and kidnapping of my son. So I gotta tell you for 1 second.